DDG, episode 221. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? A quick question. I was just watching the Mavs Timberwolves games on the TNT website, and they were just advertising all over the page that they have the Ace Ventura movie streaming, and I just need to know, like, were you into those movies? Because I wasn't.
I didn't. I like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I did too as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, you were probably what, like preteen during those movies.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
yeah.
So they were good. I mean, I'll talk about it a little bit in playing and watching, but certain stuff just doesn't age well. Like,
yeah.
it's kind of interesting, even from, the times that something comes out when you're 18, 19, 20 to where you watch it again when you're 30 and you watch it again when you're 40, or in my case 41, just doesn't seem to age well. And I'm like, this wasn't as good as I remember. So,
yeah, I feel like I had that experience with the Ace Ventura movies like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just weird seeing, like, when I'm watching the game and I don't have it on full screen, it's just like, hey, do you want to watch the Ace Ventura movies? And I'm just like, who's still advertising for who is this for? Who's watching the basketball game and it's like, oh shit, Ace Ventura.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think that I would like go out of my way to purposely like, oh, I'm off work today and I'm gonna eat lunch and I'm gonna watch Ace Ventura. But if for some reason I like wasn't feeling well, or if I just wanted to like lay down and take a nap or something like that, and it happened to be like on, like after, like if I was like watching a basketball game like on a Saturday afternoon and the game ended and that just started, like I probably wouldn't turn it off. Does that make sense?
I don't know. As soon as like Dan Marino pops up, it was at the second one. Or is it the first one? I'm probably just like, nah, if I'm going to watch a Jim Carrey movie, there's so many better ones to choose from.
Yeah,
I
think it's kind of your philosophy on like, you're curious, like you saw that they greenlit a Happy Gilmore 2, right?
Oh God, did they?
Yes.
Oh, they don't need to do that. Adam Sandler needs to be stopped. And I grew up as like Adam Sandler movies were like prime me, like 8 to 12 years old.
Yeah, you're not a Sandler fan, I know.
No, there's a couple movies I like of his, but he's not an actor that I seek out, or some movies that I like, I'm talking about like I liked them when I saw them 15, 20 years ago, and I have
which would have been what Ace Ventura was for you then too.
Yeah, but we're talking 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
For Ace Ventura. And it's just one of those ones where it's just like I just can't.
So did you like, I mean, without going on like a major tangent, but did you like the Dumb and Dumber movies?
No, I wasn't into Dumb and Dumber. I do like that shitty prequel though.
What's your top, because you always have lists, so what's your top 2 Jim Carrey movies?
Jim Carrey movies, it's gonna be Truman Show, and then Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I don't think I've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I mean, it's more of a indie.
I know he went off onto like he went off on a little serious track for a little while, like with Sandler tried the same thing too. Did you enjoy The Mask?
As a kid, yes.
Okay.
I have not, like, I have fond memories of watching The Mask in the laundromat.
Okay.
Because
I think I was The Mask for Halloween once.
that would probably make sense in that era.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like The Mask, I remember watching that at like when Fox would play movies every Friday, and
this
Fridays
might be a Patreon episode of us like rewatching Ace Ventura and like live commentating.
We might need to. We owe some.
Yeah, we've always been looking for content ideas. Maybe we need to. Yeah. All of us need to watch, like you and I need to watch like 4 Jim Carrey movies each, and then kind of talk over it.
Yeah, we'll just exchange Jim Carrey movies. You know what?
All
hell of a Riddler.
Oh my God. All right, believe it or not, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast about video games sometimes that post Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time on podcast services. Please consider
Sonic. So, games. There we go.
That second movie or that television show on Paramount ain't that good.
Surprise! Knuckles. Sonic product.
Knuckles. So we post every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time. It's you're eligible to leave reviews on your podcast service. Please consider doing so. Leaving some words on there along with stars or ratings is helpful. You can watch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, or on YouTube, youtube.com/digitaldaysgaming. You can also catch the archive live stream on YouTube. You can catch it on Twitch for like the first week or so, I think. And YouTube also puts out a RSS format that puts our logo on your screen, and you can listen without, having to see our hand gestures and faces if you don't want to. When we're live on Twitch or not live on Twitch, you can subscribe to us with your Twitch Prime Gaming, whatever you want to call it, or a paid subscription, because we are a Twitch affiliate. Everything else is linked in the show notes. Discord, Facebook, our website is all in the show notes. You can go check out previous episodes, as well as the Patreon thing that we're hinting at. If you want to consider subscribing to us on Patreon, that is always helpful but never required. So obviously just sharing the show is super helpful, and we're going to jump right into the news, and there's an acquisition in here.
Yeah, there's a surprise acquisition in this in this week. It's either an acquisition or a closure, unfortunately. Yeah. This week we at least have an acquisition. Nintendo has acquired Shiver Entertainment. So Nintendo acquired Shiver Entertainment, the studio behind the Mortal Kombat 1 and Hogwarts Legacy Switch ports. Shiver was an Embracer Group studio that Nintendo was able to pull away. In a statement, Nintendo said, by welcoming Shiver's experienced, accomplished development team, Nintendo aims to secure high-level resources for porting and developing software titles going forward. Even after it becomes part of Nintendo Group, Shiver's focus will remain the same, continuing commissions that port and develop software for multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. So it's rare that Nintendo does acquire a studio. I believe the last time they acquired one was like 2001 or 2021, and Nintendo very much they're very careful. Like, if you get acquired, it's because you already vibe really well with Nintendo, and you fit within their culture. So this is a U.S. studio that was acquired.
Makes it even more rare, in my opinion.
Yeah. But what do you think about this this seems like a strategic move more than
I think it just more solidifies Nintendo's third party, truly what they want to do for third party, and now they're bringing in a top of the line, believed to be a top of the line studio that can make high end games run on their hardware. Mortal Kombat and Hogwarts Legacy are very large games, and I haven't heard awful things about the Switch port, but I also haven't heard raving things about the Switch port.
The Mortal Kombat port got trashed heavily by people because they had to make some huge sacrifices to get that game running.
Okay.
Hogwarts Legacy, for the most part, people I know that played it are fine with it. Like like you know what you're getting with it. They cut some things that they needed to cut. Mortal Kombat got bashed, but just the fact that they were able to get that game to run, period, was a thing that makes sense for Nintendo to be like, hey, that's kind of hard. We have a new console coming out potentially in a year or two.
And ultimately, like, porting Nintendo Switch games to Switch 2, like up-resing their games. Like, they're going to do that. Like, we all know that they're going to do that. Like Mario Odyssey Remake or something like that, or another Zelda game, like Breath of the Wild. If you think we're not going to get Breath of the Wild HD on the Switch 2 or something, like in its life cycle, this is a company that can do that. All while super interesting to me, based on the last statement that you read, is that it sounds like they're going to let them continue to possibly make ports for other systems, which is very much a non-Nintendo thing, from my understanding.
Yeah, no, that very much so. But I almost read that statement not as like they'll go and companies will approach them. I almost feel like it would be Nintendo offering their services to third parties that they're interested in bringing their games over.
And I think it's also like, hey, let's play nice with third parties and show them that we have a real studio to make it viable to bring their stuff to Switch.
Yeah, just to have basically an artillery studio that like a company could be like, yeah, we kind of want to port to the next Nintendo platform, but we don't really have the resources. And Nintendo could be like, we really want your game on our platform. Here's our resource.
Right.
Like, here's a studio based in the U.S., which I also think is strategic. Mm-hmm. Of like, hey, here's a studio that you can work with, and they, will be able to assist you as much as possible in bringing your games over, or you hand over the whole project to them to port the game over for you. So this seems like it's a really good move by Nintendo, and just bringing more stuff to them, because one of their biggest faults, the last like 2-3 generations, is that third-party support. They haven't needed it, but if I'm Nintendo and I'm like, wow, we're killing game sales without third parties. Just imagine if we just had a little third party support. How much?
And probably as a forward thinking company, as much as Nintendo likes to be, or like in front of innovation, whether you like it or don't like it, they are obviously been working on games for the Switch 2 or whatever you're going to call this, Switch 2, Switch Plus. Then they're probably realizing again, like they said years ago, as they improve their hardware, that their developers are having a hard time with some of the hardware adjustments, and therefore things are taking longer. I mean, I don't have the time in front of me, but we're probably looking at 7-8 years between Zeldas, right? On average.
If you don't count HD.
Yeah, because I mean,
well, I mean, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. That was what, like 4 years, 5 years. 2018, I think.
2017.
2017.
And it came out in 2023?
Yeah, so 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sort of thing is how Nintendo runs a lot of their major franchises.
Yeah, and then obviously, so now we're talking like maybe there's another one being worked on, but but I'm talking about a new iteration of the Zelda franchise. I'm using Zelda as an example because my understanding is it just dominates everything when it comes out. So if we're at 2023, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2029 before we get, another new entry in the Zelda franchise, 2028, 2029.
Yeah.
I mean, probably a little sooner because they use the same map for Tears of the Kingdom. So they might have been already branched off on something else. But it definitely wasn't I didn't hear anybody saying Breath of the Wild could have been DLC. I'm sorry, Tears of the Kingdom could have been Breath of the Wild DLC. There was enough in there.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be interesting because I feel like we're due some type of new 3D Mario soon.
Yeah,
Odyssey's been a while, so.
I think that's a launch game, most likely. Is this like a straight up
Odyssey game. 2, probably.
Odyssey 2, that sort of thing. Unless there's a big gimmick with the Switch 2 that will justify like a whole different Mario game. But this will at least help them. Like, if Switch 2 is backwards compatible, it probably wouldn't be too,
I didn't realize this. So I'm sorry, I keep getting them mixed up. But Breath of the Wild and Odyssey launched the same year.
Yeah, Nintendo did work.
So we got another Zelda game before we got another 3D Mario game. Now we've gotten more Mario games, obviously, but they're different. Whether it's the Princess Peach
ones,
and
games. Yeah. I would imagine if Switch 2 is backwards compatible, this studio would basically be sent to like, hey, can you pick up the ports that didn't make it to the Switch period last time?
Yeah, for sure.
You pick up some of those bigger games that should have been on the Switch, but they just couldn't run. So maybe you have Nintendo just kind of pitch themselves to other companies like, hey, we really would like to bring this IP over to our next console now that we have the horsepower, and here's a studio that's willing to do the work.
I'd be really curious about I don't know the studio's deep pedigree, but one of the things that Switch is lacking always has been an FPS. Or
yeah,
Nintendo has been lacking, has always been an FPS. So there's a small part of me that's like, would I buy a dumbed down version of Destiny on a Switch if it but it's an online thing, so it's not only is it a first person shooter, but first person shooters now are continuously always online and necessary to be online. Those are two things that Nintendo severely struggles with.
Yeah, I would love it. Unfortunately most shooters are now like live service games, where it's just like, or
it just came out this week, like X Defiant. Could it do it? Like, Ubisoft has a good relationship with Nintendo. We've seen them do stuff. Could this acquisition help bridge that gap to okay, here's a great example that just jumped in my head with that now. That doesn't necessarily need the consistent online connection. A Far Cry game.
That's what I was thinking. I'm trying to think of more single player games and live service games. Like, that could be something that Nintendo missed out on. Or this could be one of those things where, obviously they're probably making the next Far Cry game. This could be one of those ones where Nintendo hears they're making a new Far Cry game, goes to Ubisoft
arguably the best Far Cry game might be Far Cry 3?
I thought 4.
4?
Was the one.
Yeah, 3, 4. So do you don't think that Ubisoft would love to put Far Cry 3 or 4 on the Switch?
Yeah, or we're kind of right around a point where I feel like Far Cry remakes are more possible than
a new Far Cry 8. Yeah,
so it could be one of those things where Nintendo could get an inkling that like some things are happening, and they can go to the studios and be like, hey, we know you're working on this project. Here's
or like a Titanfall style game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Nintendo doesn't spend money often, so this is, obviously I'm sure they've done their homework, done the research, and this is going to be one of those things where in like 4 or 5 years we look back and be like, wow, look what they did.
Yeah. They can like point them, and it's like, hey, Nintendo's got third-party support. It's only one studio, so obviously it's not going to be like this studio's going to be able to.
Yeah, they're not going to crank out a game a quarter.
But if it works out for them, they could acquire multiple studios, kind of like how PlayStation acquired a couple artillery studios the last couple of years.
Well, we saw that the GTA collection did well, even though it was trash, right?
Yeah, it did well. It was shit, but it did well.
So how good can something that people are gonna that the demand for Switch is there and it runs, like how well will that do?
Yeah, and that's gonna be the thing, is like, I would hope that the Switch 2 hardware isn't too complex that will scare third parties away, but if you can have a studio just focused on this, it's basically what Japan Studio was for PlayStation, and to a lesser extent like Sony Santa Monica, and San Diego are for third party stuff. Like, remember you would see like it was the San Diego, that's the MLB The Show people.
Yes.
You would always see the Sony San Diego logo on the most random indie games sometimes, because it's like, hey, this is a studio that helps with companies, and you'd see that with the Japan logo as well. So like, if Nintendo can have a studio like that, that'd be super beneficial. And I think it would be good if they can kind of open Nintendo up. Like, if this is a Florida based developer, like maybe they can acquire like something in the UK and just kind of spread out where they have some of these studios. Because location does matter. Not every studio is like fully remote, so sometimes you kind of just need to have someone based in that country to assist other studios.
For sure.
Yeah. Next bit of news: PlayStation is. I love this story because, like, PlayStation fanboys get upset when these games are kind of successful. But Ghost of Tsushima is PlayStation's second biggest Steam launch, right behind Helldivers 2. So Ghost launched about a week ago to mostly positive reviews. Like, for the most part, it's like, I think it's like mid 80s for the Metacritic for it. And despite the PSN account issues, it is the second biggest launch for PlayStation on Steam behind Helldivers. Ghost saw its concurrent player count on Steam past 77,000 people, which was only bested by Helldivers' whopping 400,000 concurrent players. Other PlayStation games' concurrent Steam numbers are God of War with 73K, Spider-Man with 66K, so it's right in line with those other single-player games. Ghost is also available on the Epic Games Store, so this is only taking account the Steam numbers. But this just shows you that there is an appetite, regardless of how long these games have been out. There is an appetite for these PlayStation first-party games on PC.
Yeah. We're getting closer to a day one PC and console launch, whether you like it or not, because we're already seeing them come out and say that they feel that the console numbers are declining, or they've said that they're declining. The PS5 sales are declining. I don't think a PS5 Pro is going to fix. You might see a small increase, but it's not going to be like a long-term increase. You're going to see the same. I don't think anybody's going to buy a PS5 Pro as their first PlayStation console, as a new console. It'll be an upgrade console, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there's going to be a matter of time before the board's going to be like, okay, so a 5-year-old game, I don't even know how old Ghost is, sorry, 4 or 5-year-old game sold. I think
it was a 2020 game.
Yeah. Sold this well, this many years later, and a day and date game, Helldivers, did that well. Okay, so next God of War, next Spider-Man is on PC. The same thing. It's releasing on their multiple platform thing. Like, it's gonna happen. They're integrating the PSN into PC, obviously, and this is with them losing out on potential countries to sell. So you really can't say
country sales.
Yeah.
And there had to be a fair amount of people that really wanted to play Ghost when it came out on PC.
Yeah.
They couldn't play it.
And then found out they had to do a PSN.
Yeah, but ended up probably just watching the game being played by a streamer or like watching YouTube videos, and then they're not participating in purchasing the game anymore because they've already seen it played by someone else. Imagine if those people didn't have to go that route and the game was just available to them day one.
Right.
They probably would have threw the money down.
Yeah. So
I know you like numbers, but so we have an idea of how much these ports cost based off the Insomniac leaks. What if I told you these ports only cost anywhere from $2 million to $5 million? And if you multiply the Steam $50 times the $77K, they made their money back technically already.
Cut it in half account. If they don't get all of the cut. Okay. So no, I love it, and this is why I'm saying is like.
Their first week, they most likely made their money back on what it cost to port the game.
Right, and therefore, if they develop the game as the PS5 or with the PlayStation console as the base, with as close as the PlayStation consoles are being to PCs now, these ports are going to be even easier. Yeah. And with their, similar to what we just talked about with the Nintendo, with their acquisitions, it's not NetEase. Nexease. Okay, I knew it was close. Nexease is probably helping them to where
the infrastructure's there.
Yeah, I'll be very, very curious at Concord's numbers, because that's going to be the next thing. If Concord's numbers are on par, close to Helldivers numbers, I don't think they'll be, but if they are close,
because we don't know what it is.
Right. Let's just say they're within 30% of Helldivers. Okay.
Yeah, I would say if they're above Ghost, which is now the second best game, I think people at PlayStation would throw out the game plan and and like pivot to like, we need to
be like, okay,
cut down.
We need
on this
Uncharted 5, if it's in development, needs to start being developed for PC.
Yeah. Even if it's not like, hey, it's not doable for it to be day one, depending on how long the game's been in development. But if they can cut that down,
it needs to be in launch window.
Yeah. So. Especially imagine like PlayStation likes to release games in the first half of the year. Imagine if they can start the year with the console port and end the year with the PC port.
Horizon 3, February 2025. I'm not thinking it's going to happen. 2026. Horizon 3 PC, August 2026.
Yeah. I just, like, if they could hit same year, though. Especially, like, sometimes PlayStation, because they release stuff early in the year, when it comes to Game of the Year talks, people forget about it because it came out in March.
Yeah, Horizon and God of War are March all the time.
Yeah.
And even Uncharted's been June.
And then if they can remind people of those games towards the end of the year, and I know it sounds silly, but PlayStation does care about these Game of the Year awards. It seemed like that was something they're very like.
Well, they care about they don't necessarily care about winning the awards, which I'm sure they do, but they care about being in the conversation.
Yeah, and if they could cut down that gap between PC and console release to within the same year, like that would do them a lot of like wonders,
and eliminate Xbox and hurt Xbox during the whole process. So because now you're taking more money, whether it's a Game Pass dollar or whether it's a Microsoft Game Store dollar. Like you're all of a sudden you're giving the PC player a choice. Like, do I want to buy? I'll just use an example. Do I want to buy Hellblade or do I want to buy Ghost? Like that's a decision that a player has to make.
Do I want Ghost or 3 months of Game Pass?
Right.
Especially. I've noticed a lot of people I know that have Game Pass, they only buy the 3-month increments now. Like, I don't know a lot of people that buy the 1-year increments because the 3 months are.
I just don't even. I'll be honest with you. I don't even think about it. I'm sure it's been hitting my credit card every month, and I'm just like, should I cancel it? Probably, but will I? Probably not.
I basically just wait for the 3 months to go on sale, and then I stack from there. But like a lot of people I know usually just do 3 months because they're like, oh, the one game I care about is here, and then by the time I'm done with it, my 3 months are over. So if PlayStation can go in there and snipe some of those people,
I'm not going to buy my 3-month subscription for April, May, and June because I'm going to buy Ghost.
Yeah. Like the market's there. Like these companies don't hate each other like that, but it's also they know that there's only a certain amount of money that the players can go for at one time. Speaking of players going for things at one time, Grand Theft Auto 6 is apparently launching fall 2025. Take-Two CEO revealed in a financial call that Rockstar is planning to release GTA 6 in that time frame. When asked about their confidence in a release window, the CEO responded with, "Well, there is slippage in industry. We're not immune from that. However, we narrowed the timing because we're highly confident in that timing." This is kind of Take-Two doing the thing that they usually do of like kind of calling their shot. We see this in the movie industry of like, hey, get out of our way. whether this hits, I don't know about you, Dave, but I feel like because this was in a financial call, it's more likely that it is.
It's still January 2026 in my mind, but
for me, I think that's right because they do delay games. But when you tell it to investors, I feel like you're closer to it being reality than when it's a trailer.
What's your version of fall though? Like late August, mid September, or like mid November, October?
I think it's October, first week of November, sort of thing.
Okay.
Before Thanksgiving.
This is the get out of my way. Like they're kind of telling the gaming industry, like, so do we see a push for August and September and October, from other games?
Yeah.
And everybody stays out of November?
Yeah. And I would imagine, if you're Microsoft, your PlayStation, Nintendo maybe, you probably already got the heads up from, like, Take-Two of just, like, the game's most likely coming out within this month or two. Time frame, but this is telling everyone else, basically the other developers and publishers.
Well,
like,
we saw that roguelike Prince of Persia game literally go, hey, Hades came out, we didn't realize it, we're delaying a month.
Yeah.
They're just like, we're not even going to try.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't worth it.
And this is Grand Theft Auto, like, everyone knows that it is going to just suck up all the attention in the games industry. So this could be one of those scenes where if you're a publisher and you were thinking fall 2025, because this was said, you're either going to see if you can push it forward or push it back, whatever your release is, just to kind of stay out of that window. Because it's hard to get anything. Like, all the Twitch streamers, all the YouTube streamers are going to be on Grand Theft Auto 6. So you don't bother with your marketing campaign during that time unless you want to pay like extra to get that attention.
Right.
But yeah, whether they hit this, I think it's like what's your over under on like 6 months from fall?
Over.
Yeah. I don't think it will be a year, but if this slips to the summer, like, I wouldn't be completely surprised.
Yeah, I would say February, March if I really, really had to. February, March 2026. I guess I'd really have to look at Take-Two's physical calendar and see like when their year ends. When it they'd want to get it out in it. They wouldn't want it to be at the start of a fiscal year.
Yeah, so I believe they would probably be like a March, April, because they're a U.S. company. So yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6 fall 2025. We will see if that happens. Xbox greenlit Ninja Theory's next project. So according to Windows Central, Xbox has greenlit Ninja Theory's next game. This is reportedly a different project, and it's not Project Mara, so it's not a sequel. It's just something completely new, and it's not that Project Mara thing that they teased about a year ago. Ninja Theory just launched Hellblade 2 this week. 2, like, decent reviews, like the Metacritic, OpenCritic, it's in like the low 80s, which a lot of people were kind of disappointed with, but I think that's kind of on par with the type of game Hellblade is. I'm going to probably play it this week because I re-upped my Game Pass yesterday.
Because of Hellblade 2.
Because of Hellblade 2. Yeah. But yeah, Dave, the reason I put this in here, because a lot of people after the last set of layoffs were like, oh shit, like...
Well, and it didn't help either. Ninja Theory released this like statement, like it was like the day their game came out. Yeah. So, but I think that Ninja Theory was, I'm trying to think about the right way to process this statement. Ninja Theory was sought after purchase by Microsoft. They knew Ninja Theory wasn't in a combo. It wasn't, Tango Gameworks came with Bethesda. So it wasn't like you were buying something shiny over here and realized that there was rust over there. And again, I'm not saying Tango Gameworks is rust. It's just an analogy. They went after Ninja Theory specifically for what they're doing. So versus they went after Bethesda for God knows what. And we still don't really know that yet. And then saw the problems that we saw with Bethesda. And they're like, okay, that's not going to work. Like, I think that they obviously had, deeper dive into Ninja Theories and books.
Yeah, and especially when you look at Ninja Theory was like their studio, they had a specific vision. I think we saw that with Hellblade 2, where remember the first pitch with Hellblade is like, we're making a small game that's highly polished. Like they're making like
And they did that, it sounds like, right?
And and that's what I was going to get to. And it sounds like with Hellblade 2, they kept with that. And some people were upset that it wasn't this grand, expansive game. It was Hellblade 1 style of like, hey, this is like a 4 to 6 hour game,
right?
Highly polished.
I think the things that I think that they're getting dinged for are the things that Ninja Theory's been saying since they started development of it. It was going to be.
No, and it's basically what it is, which is why like I brought up the Metacritic score of like it's decent. People say it's the Xbox tax, but it's not. That doesn't exist. It's the people weren't paying attention to what the studio was telling people.
Yeah, there's 2 Plague Tales, right?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't you think, if I remember right, didn't you think the second one suffered from a little bit of bloat?
A little bit of bloat. I was scared that it would be too much bloat, but it found like just a little right balance. Right.
So, but there was still some in there of them trying a little too hard of like, oh, well, we got to make a bigger game. Like, it's got to be bigger than, and Ninja Theory's like, screw you.
Yeah,
Ninja Theory's like, we're going to do exactly what we did with the first one and just tell a cool story. And it sounds like they did it to the point where it's piquing my interest again, even though I'm not going to play the game, I don't think, because I didn't play the first one. And I don't really know if I want the inside of my head messed with like this.
And it sounds like they do some really cool things, like they expand on that. Like Hellblade 2 seems like it's an actual perfect sequel in terms of like, hey, we expanded on the ideas from the first game, and also we just made it like way more visually stunning than the first one. But yeah, Ninja Theory, I didn't know they're only like so someone said they're like an 80 to 120 person studio, which as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, they're safe. Like Microsoft, like they're probably
they're not
small.
Bleeding cash.
Yeah, like that's a small enough studio that it's just like, okay, that explains why it took them a while to develop the game. Maybe they need a little bit more resources for that, but maybe they don't want the extra resources because that would mess up their vision.
And maybe that was talked about during the acquisition of let us, we're not going over 150 employees. Like we're not going to do it or something like that. And that maybe led to the deal and what was going on. And who knows? But I mean, this is, I guess I care that it took them as long as it took them to do this, but at the same time, it's in Unreal 5, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and Unreal 5 wasn't fully fleshed out until about a year and a half ago. I think.
We would around. I mean, that's when like most companies made that transition. But they definitely were early in that engine. This is just one of the things though. Like Xbox or Windows Central is the one that got the info leaked to them, and I feel like that was. Either Ninja Theory or someone on Microsoft leaking that news to Windows Central just to be like, hey, like people think we're going to shut them down. Can you like let it known that we greenlit their next game without announcing that next game?
It's a valid question with them just shutting down Tango Gameworks after Hi-Fi Rush.
It 100%
it's a very
is a
valid question.
Yeah. But this is one of those leaks that it seems very planned in terms of like, hey, we need to tell people it's going to be okay, but we don't want to announce a game right now. So they go to Windows Central, which handles like all the Microsoft stuff, and kind of let the story out of like, hey, they're working on like a new game, and I guess they kind of have Project Mara,
demo.
which I have no idea if that will ever be a thing. It might not be a thing, but it also could be something that Microsoft doesn't care if it's a thing, if it's like a tech demo. But all right. Final Xbox story. So the reports suggest Call of Duty will be on Game Pass day one. So this is, I think Windows Central was in on this. IGN, Eurogamer, multiple outlets were basically confirming as VGC as well. But yeah, this year's Call of Duty sounds like it will be on Game Pass day one after months of internal debates at Microsoft. According to insiders, this will also lead to some changes with Game Pass tiers. Some insiders suggesting a price increase, while others are suggesting that the current system is just going to flat out change because they kind of feel the current system is confusing to advertise, and they want to make sure they have their advertising and tier stuff figured out because Call of Duty is going to bring a ton of attention to Game Pass if it's coming day one. Dave, multiple questions. First one is, how do you feel about Call of Duty being on Game Pass day one? I feel like you're going to be like, no shit, duh.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Like they have to do this, like to show Game Pass growth. It's going to be on other platforms, so they're going to get the credit and the sales from the other platforms, whether it's PC or PlayStation. So I think it has to be. And I'm assuming your next question is, what's my thought on tier changes? I think this is par for the course of what's to be expected of spending $140 billion or whatever they have. I don't know the number. I'm sorry. Between the
69 billion and then another 7 for Bethesda. So close to 80 billion.
Yeah. So, or roughly their acquisitions over the last couple of years of 100 billion total. And, they have to start showing growth, engagement, and return on investment. You do that through game sales. You do that through Game Pass subscriptions. So you need both, and they should get both. I could totally see a Call of Duty Game Pass tier exclusively, like $22 a month, and they reveal Call of Duty this summer, and here's the game and here's the content for an entire year. Like, they're gonna really kind of service out Call of Duty. It's already somewhat serviced out, but here's the seasonal content, here's the stuff, here's the maps.
There's a roadmap, because I feel like Call of Duty doesn't do roadmaps.
Right. No, I think that they used to, but I think that in terms of, I could totally see a system where you buy the $100 or $120 package for Call of Duty and you get everything, or you buy this tier of Game Pass and you get everything, or if you buy this tier you get almost everything, but you got to wait like 30 days. Yeah.
I can see them kind of doing a Call of Duty tier, like you said, that comes with like a sampler of Game Pass.
Yeah. A smaller cost.
Yeah, a smaller cost.
Okay, I was saying a larger cost.
No, So I feel like they would be pushing it with another price increase because they've had 2 or 3 in the last year or so. I can see them shuffling the tiers to where there's like a lower cost, like that core tier becomes the Call of Duty tier with a sampling of stuff. But I know that's going to make things more confusing.
Yeah.
Because right now I think people are confused of just like, do I still need live? It's like,
right.
No, as long as you have...
So you're saying core Game Pass, or you're saying core Call of Duty and Ultimate is 3 tiers?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And then the Call of Duty one being between core and Ultimate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to get people into that stuff and then be like, hey, you like Call of Duty, you really like Game Pass? Well, here's, the next best thing, which is Ultimate. Mm-hmm. I can see them doing something like that. That would probably be more confusing. But Call of Duty, they're not going to cannibalize their sales too bad because their number one platform is PlayStation for Call of Duty. So, they can kind of fuck around for a year or two with Call of Duty on Game Pass and figure out tier stuff, and it won't hurt their sales ultimately because right now it's probably, PlayStation 1, PC 2, Xbox 3? Yeah. In terms of, where their revenue comes from.
Yeah.
So they can kind of mess around to figure out how to do this on PC, and Xbox is just kind of like a little bit of bonus because their market share is so small.
I'll be curious. We haven't heard the numbers yet, but they put Diablo 4 on Game Pass. That had to have brought some increased subscriptions. It had to. And then if they got a Call of Duty game coming out October, November, I mean, I'll be honest with you, to your point, Michael, it's probably easier for somebody to be like, here you go, here's $30 or $40 3-month Game Pass subscription. Go mess around with Call of Duty and see if you're playing it after 3 months, and we'll look at it again, versus spending $70 on something like I get annoyed with Owen. He comes to me and wants another game, and I'm like, dude, you're going to play this game for 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you're going to move on. He hasn't touched Dragon Ball in 6 weeks. So, he was all over it.
That's why, free-to-play games like Fortnite are so successful, because you can drop in and drop out as you want. Yep. So there's always a chance that they'll get you with something else.
And that's why I feel like there was going to be a higher Call of Duty tier offering that drop-in, drop-out functionality of, here's all this stuff that you get with this tier. You get the ultimate version of Call of Duty, and then the people that buy the game full outright deluxe edition of the disc game get the same stuff. But if you want to be on regular Game Pass Ultimate or whatever, you get the stuff 30 days later.
Yeah, I can also see it just being simple of hey, Call of Duty's in Ultimate, it's not in Core.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, if that's just how they're gonna do it, and they're just hoping that isn't confusing enough for people in terms of oh, I thought I bought the Call of Duty one and I didn't. I bought Core. I don't want to play Sea of Thieves or Grounded, whatever the smaller games are on there.
Because the other thing that's lingering around there is Call of Duty Mobile, which does pretty well.
Yeah, you'd imagine that's just just little extra money flowing in from that like they're probably gonna leave as untouched as possible.
Yeah.
Especially because Xbox can be, you can stream the full games to your phone, so like that could be a whole other thing once people figure out like, oh, I could play actual Call of Duty with a controller in my phone anywhere I want.
Right.
Like that could be a game changer for them once people kind of get into the ecosystem. Basically, they need to find a way to lower the tier or that entry.
Yeah,
as much as possible.
That's a great point. What you're saying is you're changing my mind, because that's a great point of, oh yeah, you want to play this on your phone on the go with a Bluetooth controller? Okay, upgrade to Ultimate. Like, I see what you're saying now. I'm saying shoot over Ultimate because you're going to get them anyways, and introduce those players to Game Pass. But I also now just realized that those players are just going to go buy the disc and put their disc in their Xbox and move on with their life. So
so you want to set that entry as low as possible.
Yeah, no, you're right. I got you now. That's a very valid point. So
we might also see a return of trials, like 7-day trials and stuff like that, 2-week trials.
I'm more on the fence, or more on the side of we're going to see return of 30-day exclusivity or 60-day exclusivity, like we did back in the day with Matt. That I think would go to deluxe owners versus Game Pass owners. Like a reason
that would be another way of just like, hey, say they do make a middle tier that's Call of Duty is on. If they're like, hey, for Ultimate, you can get this map pack early so you can play with your friends on PlayStation who had to pay for the pack day one.
Yeah.
That sort of thing could be very helpful. Though, honestly, I'm kind of out of the loop on how map packs even work on Call of Duty anymore, because Warzone
I think they do seasonal stuff. Like, I know that because they have seasonal battle passes and stuff like that, and they do a lot of challenge stuff that I've seen. But, yeah, it's just interesting because, like, it wouldn't entice me to change my Game Pass subscription, personally. Call of Duty's not enough for that. But if it's all of a sudden, if it's included with Ultimate, I'll dabble with it. Yeah,
I'll dabble with it as long as it's not like, what is it, 150 gigs? The last Call of Duty was. I'll dabble with it. But yeah, no. I believe it's Black Ops 6 is what everyone's saying is the game this year, or whatever Black Ops number they're on, which will be huge because that's like probably the most beloved franchise within Call of Duty. Which again is just a good move for them to do that if this is going to be on Game Pass, of just like, hey, Black Ops is on Game Pass is going to be.
I think it's 5. Big. Black Ops 5, I think, is where they're at.
Okay, 5.
I think, but I feel like I saw 3, and you did some stuff with 4. 4 was the first one to drop the campaign.
But then there was one after that, and they dropped the number scheme, I think.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah. So.
But yeah, this we'll find out probably in a couple weeks. We're like 3 weeks away from the.
Yeah, don't tell me that.
All the news. So we'll find out what's going on.
Having hard enough time motivating myself to play games now, let alone seeing a whole bunch of stuff that I won't play again.
I'm ready for it. I mean, I have some PTO built up. I might take a day or two for stuff.
Yeah, I might need to do the same. Start looking at some dates. So. All right. So far nothing's been delayed and nobody got closed.
Multiversus is coming out, or is out, something like that. X Defiance is out.
Yeah. So I don't
long
know what
delayed stuff is coming out.
Dogs and cats are living in the same house.
That one FPS where you play a toy that's in like a toy store, that is finally coming out next week, which. We gotta mess around with that game on Xbox. It might be worth.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'll show it to you.
Okay.
It's a game that's like lived on Twitter for like the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay. All right. So what we're playing and watching. So my playing is very thin. I think I told Michael before we started recording. I'm going out of town for some Memorial Day stuff. My daughter's back home, so we're going to Cedar Point and stuff this weekend with her boyfriend. And even though I write my own schedule, I gave myself an 8-day run.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Yeah, after coming back from, and I don't need to do it, and I don't know why I did it. I just looked up my schedule, and I'm like, wait, I'm off today? I go, well, then I'm not off until like next Friday. I'm like, damn. So not a lot of time for playing. Daughter unexpectedly came home. Nothing bad, just a better job opportunity. So right post her graduation, we kind of knew that was going on. Paper Mario does come out tomorrow, as we're recording this show. I have purchased that. So that will
download
digital. Like I don't trade games in anymore, and Owen loses cartridges.
No, there was just reports that like a lot of physical copies were canceled.
Oh, I didn't even know that, but I'm just like, I don't even want to mess with the chance of, as much as Owen touches and moves the Switch and does stuff, I just want to know that my game's on the system. So.
A bunch of people that bought at Walmart were getting canceled emails.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
It sounds like they under-delivered sort of thing, like or Nintendo under-delivered the amount of copies.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that kind of holds my attention for a little bit. I'll see. I struggle to play the Switch in the car, but I'll see if it's something I can pull off. It's like we have like 2 hours of driving, 2.5 hours of driving. Hopefully that kind of I never really went back to Mario RPG either. So, and then, Final Shape comes out like in 2 weeks. So the Destiny content update comes out in like 2 weeks. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. There's a bunch of stuff going on with that right now. With they're trying to build the hype, like showing exotics. And I'm just like, at this point in time, I just kind of want to see how this story finishes. So that's really all I've been playing. I was watching some of the basketball. And then, shocking, my wife and I, through my daughter's recommendation, found a show on Paramount Plus. It's called Scorpion, and it's apparently like 6 or 7 seasons. We're really kind of enjoying this. This kind of in this FBI crime drama crap that I'm in all the time. But it's like a team of like highly intelligent, like the third highest or fourth highest IQ people that are helping the government solve cases and stuff like that. So we're like 4 or 5 episodes in. I think there's like 6 seasons. So that is what we've been watching. It's kind of just, again, one of those easy 45-minute things, no commercials, that we can watch like right when I get home from work and like, okay, that's 1 episode or 2 episodes and we go to bed. Mentally, that's where my wife and I are at, is she's getting ready to wrap up her first school year. She's also trying to balance her master's class. So it's kind of like shut brain off. And then also so my daughter's boyfriend's name is Devin. And we found out this week that, ironically enough, I don't know actors' names. I know I suck at this, Michael, but there's an actor in Scorpion that played Finch in American Pie. And we found out that he, the guy that does Stifler's mom.
Something Everett.
Yeah, he's in Scorpion, and I said, oh, that's that guy from American Pie. And Devin, at 22 or 23 years old, goes, what's American Pie?
And then you're like, hey,
so we watched American Pie.
That's an awkward watch with
a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to see reactions. But that, as I hinted at the show, I watched that this week, and
it seems like a weird intimidation thing. Just like, what jokes are you laughing at, kid?
Oh, don't worry, my daughter's worse than him, and I know my daughter's worse than him. So,
okay.
My daughter saw it at a much younger age.
She's like, this is a Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah,
we watch this every year.
It just wasn't as good as I remember it at all.
No shit, really? Fucking American Pie wasn't as good as you. No.
Even 10 years ago, though, watching it, so I don't know. It's just interesting. I was just like, huh. So a movie that didn't age well. It's 25 years old.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that until we rented it or whatever.
I feel like there's a lot of early 2000s comedies that just won't age that well. American Wedding was okay. Right? Was that the third one, I think?
Oh, American Pie Wedding. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But still, I don't think any of them probably have aged well because it's the American Pie movies.
Right. It's just kind of one of those things where that's not as funny as it used to be.
Yeah, the guy fucking a pie just isn't as funny as it was 25 years ago.
Putting somebody on a hidden webcam and putting them on the internet doesn't play over too well.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah. There's a lot of things in those movies where people should be in jail. But yeah. But you go back to the movies in the 80s and that same raunchy teen thing, and you're just like, oh, all the people in Porky's are in hell now. It's just
oh man, yeah. So, I will say that
that movie.
The playoffs, some of the NBA playoffs, has actually been rather entertaining.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, watching Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, the Timberwolves are kind of becoming that team of they're one of the cities. Minnesota is one of the cities with the longest streak without a championship. I think it's like 1991. When the Twins won something.
Oh, okay.
Of the teams with 4 major sports in them, I saw some graph they're up there as 1, 2, or 3 as I think the last time the city of Minneapolis had a championship was the Minnesota Twins, in the Jack Morris days.
Oh, because the Vikings made it to the Super Bowl.
No, they lost. They couple of those missed field goals against the Falcons.
Okay, I was thinking like even when oh man,
in the 60s, 70s, 80s, yeah, Minnesota was good.
I felt like a Randy Moss team.
No, they had it. Randall Cunningham, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, but they lost to the Falcons that year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then that was Elway's first Super Bowl when he beat the Falcons, first or second. But yeah, and then like the Timberwolves are, in NBA terms, are relatively still like new-ish team, like not new, but I mean they've been around as long as at least as old as you are. I think it's, but it's pretty cool. And then Dallas too, like just Dallas, like Luka Doncic is just a star for the NBA. So
talking to a coworker earlier, this is the first time that the conference finals teams, I'm rooting for all of them because they all have like young people as leaders. There's not really any team that their top player is
Tatum
like
and Halliburton and Luka and Anthony Edwards. I mean, we're talking about those 4 or 5 are all under the age of 25.
Yeah, Kyrie's the oldest
veteran
person, at this point, which is just crazy.
I think that like obviously I don't believe that sports are rigged, but like the Pacers Knicks series, going back to like the 90s with Reggie Miller, John Starks, and Patrick Ewing stuff, like that was kindling some of that for me. But I think the NBA could have massively benefited from a Knicks Celtics series, massively.
Yeah, the only problem is like the Tibbs, the coach of the Knicks, he runs his players like
into the ground, literally
into the ground, and they
defend him though.
No, he's a good coach. People he likes certain players that will play hard for him, but his play style just kind of led to so many injuries that he had no choice but to run them into the ground because when you get to the playoffs, you go from a 12-man team to like you probably only are in
7,
an 8-man rotation,
maybe 8 at the most. Yeah,
you still have the other 4 guys on the bench, but you only play 8 people. And then what happens when 3 of those 8 people get injured? Like you just run the 5 people.
Yeah. The Pacers are like the Pacers Celtics stuff is going to be high scoring drama. Like we're talking about 130 point to 128 point games, and then the Timberwolves Dallas is going to be like in the mid 80s. Like it's
well, because people underestimate like the Mavericks defense. Like people talk about
Minnesota has the best defense.
Yeah, and then like when you look at the stats, it's like the Mavs, especially the playoff run, have had a really solid defense. What's the score right now? I was watching that earlier.
So I just think the NBA playoffs are going to be inherently interesting.
No more TNT after
Did they lose? Did they officially lose that?
Officially lost.
When did that come out?
This morning.
Okay, so NBC got it?
Yeah, so next season will be the last inside the NBA season. So no Ernie, Chuck, Shaq, and Kenny.
Ernie for sure. Chuck, Charles Barkley, Shaq, and all these other guys can go to other they
could go to NBC if NBC wants to put.
But Ernie is tied to TNT in a long-term contract, like a massive one. But I'd be curious what they're going to do with him though, because like what do you pay this guy all this money for if you don't have any sports? He's a fantastic host. He can do other stuff. Yes. Yeah,
I also think if you're Warner Brothers, you lose the NBA. Because you didn't want to spend like $2.5 billion, figure out how much it's going to cost for the WNBA.
Right.
In the meantime, because it's probably super cheap, and there's a lot of hype right now about the current
at this
season.
point in time, subcontract Ernie out and just use them when you need to use them, but subcontract them out, which can happen.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah,
I think that's gonna suck. That's a lot of people like that show. I must have missed that officially came down that NBC won the rights.
Yeah, it's either NBC won the rights or TNT just bowed out.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I know Amazon was also in the running as well as like 2 other things.
Yeah. So, but that's it for playing and watching for me. So.
Yeah. For me, besides NBA playoffs, which I've been watching religiously. I did pick up a Rose and Camellia Collection on the Nintendo Switch. This is a collection of 5 like very small games that Dave will probably laugh at the premise, where it's basically like a novella, very dramatic style story, where you play like a commoner woman in a rich family, and you're trying to basically take the state that is rightfully yours. And the way you battle your family and other characters and stuff like that is by slapping the shit out of each other. Oh, jeez. So
by the way, the Mavs Timberwolves is like 59-62 at halftime. So my premise of the games being in the mid 80s is out the window.
Yes. Luca and Ant are just going to go nuts against each other. So this game is basically a game where you slap the shit out of each other. Like, you basically take turns slapping your opponent. How you slap your opponent is either two ways. You either slide on the screen, like to move your hand, so it uses the Switch's touchscreen for that, or you can take the Joy-Con and use motion controls to do the slapping. Very simple gameplay. Really fun. This is basically a compilation of 5 games in this pack, and each game probably takes like maybe a half hour for each game, because each episode is its own individual story. This is one of those games that Limited Run put out and like brought over to the Switch, and it is a game that I feel like anyone that's kind of in my age range it will be familiar with, because it was a relatively popular Flash game back in the mid to late 2000s. And this is one of those cool things where Limited Run gets a lot of crap because, they they're an Embracer group. They're also like, some of their ports can be kind of
shovelware RS.
Yeah, and the false scarcity that they make every time they release something is problematic. But when they do stuff like this, where they're like, hey, you remember those Flash games that are now gone to the world because no one's web browser runs Flash anymore, and those websites that hosted these games are gone? What if we brought those to modern consoles and then they port them and actually live up to their like forever physical, like preserving game history sort of, like mantra that they have. So this is one of those games that I'm glad it isn't going to be forgotten. It was brought to the Switch. It's only a $20 thing for the 5 games. Again, they're really short. They're like a half hour. There's not a lot to explain with the gameplay. It's literally, like I said, it is just you slapping your way through like all these other characters. There's some like strategy to it. There is some depth to it. Not a lot, but there is some in terms of like, there's like visual tells when you know when to dodge a slap or when it's a good time to actually slap someone. There's like some sound cues as well you can follow. So each opponent you face will have some sort of tell, so you kind of have to play with that and know that like every person that you go against will have some different thing that makes them special compared to other people or makes them unique. But yeah, this game looks good. Like, the art style is translated pretty well to the Switch. It's very simple. It runs on the Switch, which is something that I always have to mention when I talk about Switch games. Like, it actually runs smooth because it is a simple game. It's a Flash game that was ported.
Game or sandwich?
This is worth with inflation now, a $20 game is probably like a sandwich. So yeah, this definitely is like an indie game. I would recommend anyone that used to play Flash games to go look up what this game is, just because you probably have played it or have seen it if you used to go on Flash games, mostly during school. That's where I did a lot of my Flash game playing, is just running them on the library computer or the school computer. So yeah, this is Rose and Camellia Collection on the Switch. $20. I think it's worth it for that. Limited Run did put out a physical copy for it, but I think those pre-orders are done now, so digital is the only way to do it. No other platforms as far as I know, just on the Switch.
Nice.
So definitely worth trying. That is pretty much all I've played outside of still doing some Fallout New Vegas stuff, and dabbling with PS3 stuff because my paranoia lives on about that store closing, so I'm just digging down further into the store.
I haven't even gone back to that show yet, and I don't know if I'm not saying it just didn't, it held my attention, but not enough to like be like, I want to see what happens next.
Also, I think you're tired too, probably, so you just want a show where your brain gets turned off. Like,
yeah, and I think it's more or less like I'm at that point where I think I need to find some stuff that I can watch like without Ange, and I keep circling back to like people raving about it. I have not watched The Boys enough. I did not give it a fair shake, and that's something I think I should do.
X-Men 97 would be a good watch too.
I watched a couple of those.
Yeah. It finished pretty strong.
Yeah, I have been watching. I just randomly got on this baseball movie kick lately, so I was like, I watched Field of Dreams a couple days ago, and some other just other baseball stuff. I just been on a baseball kick it. And to be fair, I am signed up to play in 3 softball leagues this year, so I might be overdoing that a little bit. So that's like Probably. 6 games a week. So.
With your arthritis knees.
Yeah, I'm doing one knee. Not okay, multiple. One. Okay, so, and I have a thing that I wear on my leg, and it hurts the worst in the morning, first thing in the morning, and just it's not a lingering pain. It's literally like just 5-second jolts every now and then. So
okay, yeah, it's kind of weird. Fun.
So yeah.
Are you an Advil before the game or after the game?
Both.
Okay. But yeah, no, playing that's all. I did pick up some more indie games because a ton of indie games have released in the last 2 weeks. I'll talk about the next one that I'm gonna probably pick up this weekend, next week, along with Hellblade 2.
Nice.
So
hopefully like Mario for me, like Mario 1000 or Paper Mario, and I'll try not to bore you guys too much with Destiny, but I just hope it's good and it's fun. I might stream it a little bit just so some of you guys like to see. A lot of you guys sometimes are intrigued by like how I physically play Destiny, because like usually it's a little bit more of an entertaining watch for some people sometimes. So.
And there's also some people that are like, I have no interest in playing Destiny, but I'll watch someone that knows what they're doing.
Correct.
Destiny.
Yeah. And ask me a bunch of questions, and then I end up explaining stuff, and I end up being in my menu too long. So. All right, is that it for you?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. A reminder, just guys, send us some questions. I know that some of you might be behind. Maybe you're a little bit more caught up now after our little break that we took, our little hiatus. You can send us questions or comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You don't have to wait for us to ask for them. You can send them to us on Twitter. If we say something on the podcast you disagree with, you put that hashtag on it and say what you disagree with. Like, that's fine. I would love to hear some conversations or have some questions or even topics that you guys would like to see us cover. If you come across a news story, Michael and I don't catch everything, can't catch everything, and we'll never catch everything. So if there's something that you see or you would love to have as a topic, I promise you, if a listener sends us something in, it'll get on the agenda. I promise. So please, we would love your guys' involvement. Send us the questions. Put them in Discord. Any of that stuff. There's been a little bit of talk in our Discord. It was like about a half a day. And it kind of died down a little bit. But like the college football, a possible online dynasty. The fact that
I didn't put that in the news.
Yeah,
that's coming.
Yeah, the fact that EA is not supporting cross-play on the online dynasty is annoying and dumb.
But does it have cross-play?
And other avenues, yes, like regular, like versus online play.
Such a weird thing to
I got to dig into that a little bit more. Josh, a good friend of mine, Josh Crease, he sent me a FAQ picture or posted it in Discord. There was enough discussion that was happening currently at the time that I made a college football channel. I put a poll in there about what platform you're going to buy it on. PS5 is winning right now, so you're not going to buy it.
I voted for Xbox.
You're not going to buy it.
No.
It is interesting, though, that they have a
Can I send hot dog prices?
No, in Madden you can.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I like that part of Madden. I like setting concessions prices.
Yeah.
Can't do that in college.
Nothing I'm aware of. I don't know. It's been 11 years. So
can I use NIL money to like
I don't know yet. Like it's not out.
Find out.
But there's a bundle, a very interesting bundle that's very non-EA, that both deluxe editions of Madden and College Football 25, both the deluxe editions. They haven't really even announced this Madden officially, although we know it's coming. It's $150.
70 plus 70 is 140. Yeah.
But the deluxe versions, though, like the $100 versions.
It usually comes with like ultimate packs for Madden.
Yeah. So they're gonna have some type of Madden Ultimate Team in college, which I was hoping that they wouldn't do, but I knew that they would. So it'll be super interesting. That did generate a lot of buzz with those trailers and stuff of like that game's gonna do. I think that game's gonna do very well. There is a potential for a DDG online dynasty. I don't necessarily want to put a cap on it or a limit on it. But at the same time, I need it to be tangible. Like we can't have 15, 18 people in this thing and try to do a 48-hour advance. That's too hard. So we'll have to see where the interest is. I think right now it's like 6 or 7 people. So that's a really good number. Like I like 10, 12 at the most, but we'll see how it goes. And when it comes out, I was really hoping for a PC release, and it's not coming to that either. So maybe next year. So all right, that is all I got. You got anything else, Michael?
No, I'm just gonna play some more indie games, play some Hellblade this week.
Awesome. I'm going to Cedar Point. Top Thrill Dragster 2 is closed already. Their new biggest ride is closed. But yeah, keep an eye on our socials for that kind of stuff. I'm sure Michael might post some stuff. You can follow him at the first MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. You can follow the main podcast at Digital Days Pod. Facebook group and Discord server are linked in the show notes, as well as the Patreon, as well as websites, and leaving reviews and sharing the show can all be done from your phone, hopefully. So hope everyone has a great week, and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick.